There is belief, and then there is skepticism. Between the two lies a vast territory of questions and the unknown. What if reality is far more complex than we have been willing to perceive? What if the stories we dismissed as myth and legend hold the keys to understanding consciousness? From ghostly encounters to inexplicable lights in the sky, humanity has always sensed there was something more out there. Some call it paranormal, and others call it the divine. Some look to the stars for answers, while others search within. Philosophy asks, why? Theology asks, who? Science asks, how? And we ask ourselves, what if? We stand at the meeting point, a place where the veil between realities is thinner than you might think. This is the crossroads of the veil. Here at the crossroads, where history bleeds into mystery, and the whispers of forgotten ages grow loud in the silence of our modern world. To begin, let's briefly review the narrative and circumstances that bring us together now. In 2007, Chris Bledsoe, a devout family man and building contractor from North Carolina, faced immense hardship, financial ruin due to the economic downturn, a severe illness, Crohn's disease, and the unresolved trauma of his first wife's death left him in despair. While on the Cape Fear River in January 2007, he experienced a profound event. Others present, including his son, reported unsettling encounters with small, glowing-eyed entities. Upon waking the next morning, Bledsoe's Crohn's disease was cured, a fact later confirmed by doctors. Despite this, he faced ridicule from his community, who deemed the event demonic. The phenomena persisted at Bledsoe's home, including lights, a burning tree, and shadowy figures. Bledsoe came to believe he could communicate with the phenomena through his consciousness. A key entity, the Lady, began communicating wisdom and warnings, primarily telepathically. The Lady cautioned against interpreting the phenomena as demonic, warned of humanity's directionless state, and prophesied a new knowledge emerging with a specific celestial alignment in 2026. Around Easter 2012, during a hypnotic regression session, it was recovered that she reportedly had linked herself to the Egyptian goddess Hathor, a name that echoed not from the distant stars as some new celestial visitor, but from across the millennia on the desert winds and the very dust and sands of ancient and forgotten tombs. Her name is carved into the very stones of antiquity. Suddenly, this was no mere modern anomaly. This was a primal force, a goddess of Egypt, her shadow stretching across the millennia, laden with power and unspeakable secrets. We will navigate the labyrinth of Hathor's multifaceted and unique mythology, a journey into the ancient lands of Egypt, where the veil between worlds was thin. What other ancient forces might awaken when a name like Hathor is invoked in our modern age of high strangeness? Perhaps that day is fast approaching when we will find out. But that is yet another story. Her tale is not a simple myth, but a story that asks us to confront the very nature of divinity, and the unsettling possibility that the ancient gods never truly left. Prepare yourselves, because we are about to delve into the enigma that is Hathor. From the sun-scorched plains of ancient Kemet, a land we now call Egypt, a whisper on the lips of priests dead for millennia, a carving on temple walls that have defied empires and the relentless march of time, a presence that, even now, sends a shiver down the spine of those who dare to look too closely, to listen too intently to the silence of the sands. She is more than just a deity from a forgotten pantheon, a relic of a bygone era. Imagine, if you will, a force so pervasive, so deeply embedded in the consciousness of an entire civilization, that its tendrils reached into every conceivable corner of life, and indeed of death. That was Hathor to the ancient Egyptians, her presence a constant, multifaceted reality, a celestial mother, her gaze fixed on the turning stars, the silent, wheeling cosmos, a fierce protectress, her roar echoing in the desolate desert winds, a warning to any who dared threaten her domain or her people, the very embodiment of joy, her laughter said to shake the foundations of temples, her music inspiring ecstatic dance and unbridled celebration, and yet also the silent, compassionate guide of the dead, leading souls into the terrifying, luminous unknown of the afterlife. But who was she? Beneath the layers of myth, the shifting forms, what was her true essence? Was she one goddess, a singular, definable entity? Or was she many, a legion of divine aspects, a pantheon contained within a single name? Could she have been a shifting, multifaceted consciousness, a divine mirror reflecting the universe itself in all its beauty and its terror? Even the ancient texts, those precious, crumbling papyri and stone inscriptions we cling to for answers, speak of her in riddles, in paradoxes. A type of deity, one modern scholar, Robin Gillam, cautiously suggests, rather than a single entity, as if she were a blueprint for the divine feminine, a cosmic template capable of absorbing and reflecting every conceivable aspect of power, of life, of the creative impulse, and of the terrifying, beautiful void. The fascination she commands, the profound and often unsettling questions she raises, they haven't faded with the passing of centuries. If anything, they've only deepened, grown more insistent. Scholars, armed with the tools of archaeology and linguistics, their fingers tracing hieroglyphs that speak of her boundless love and her devastating, world-shattering wrath. Spiritual seekers, even in our hyper-modern secularized age, claim to hear her voice in the rustling leaves or the desert wind. They claim to feel her presence in moments of profound joy or deep creative inspiration. Some even claim to channel her ancient and sometimes profoundly unsettling wisdom. The enigma of Hathor endures. It beckons us from across the vast, silent gulf of time. Veiled in the dust of ages, her cow-like eyes, or her leonine glare, still watching, still waiting. What secrets does she still hold? What forgotten truths lie buried with her cults, beneath the sands of forgotten temples? And what does her persistent echo in our own time signify for us, for our understanding of the sacred, and of the enduring power of the feminine divine? These are the questions that draw us to the crossroads tonight. Our journey tonight, as I've warned, is not for the faint of heart, nor for those who seek simple, comforting answers. We are stepping into a world where the lines between benevolence and terror blur, where the divine is both breathtakingly beautiful and terrifyingly alien. The inciting incident, the spark that ignites this deep, perhaps perilous investigation, is Hathor herself. How can one being, one divine entity, embody so much, encompass such a vast and often warring spectrum of attributes? How can the goddess of intoxicating joy, of music that lifts the soul to ecstatic heights, of love that binds the universe and ensures the continuation of life, also be the bringer of unimaginable destruction? How can the patroness of miners simultaneously be the celestial cow, whose sacred milk forms the very stars of the Milky Way, a cosmic river of nourishment flowing across the night sky? How can the tender mother, suckling pharaohs at her divine breast, legitimizing their rule, imbuing them with the very essence of kingship, also be the distant goddess, wrathful and alienated, whose departure plunges the world into desolation and despair, her absence a cosmic wound? These aren't just different roles, different masks worn by a singular deity, they feel like different realities, different fundamental states of being, clashing, converging, and somehow coexisting within a single electrifying name, Hathor. This is the core of the mystery we confront tonight. This is the puzzle that has baffled Egyptologists and intrigued mystics for generations. The ancient Egyptians, it seems, didn't see these as contradictions, not in the way our modern, often rigidly logical, compartmentalized minds tend to do. For them, the divine was a spectrum, a vast flowing ocean of potential, capable of manifesting in countless forms, embodying all aspects of existence, light and shadow, creation and destruction. And Hathor was the storm and the calm. She was the gentle wave lapping the shore, and the tsunami that scours the land. She was the life-giving sun and the consuming fire. But for us, standing on this side of history, peering back through the mists of time, the questions loom large, casting long, unsettling shadows across our understanding. What does this profound multiplicity tell us about the ancient Egyptian mind, about their worldview, their cosmology? What does it reveal about their understanding of power, of the feminine principle, of the very fabric of existence? And perhaps more chillingly, what does it mean that such a being, so ancient, so potent, so utterly paradoxical, continues to exert a palpable pull on the modern psyche? Why does her name still resonate in esoteric circles, in new religious movements, in the quiet studies of those who seek a deeper connection to the sacred feminine? This investigation, this deep dive into the heart of Hathor, is an attempt to piece together the shattered mirror of her being, to gather the glittering, sometimes blood-soaked, fragments of her story from academic texts, from the meticulous records of archaeological digs that smell of dust, but also, as the nature of our inquiry demands, from the whispers of those who claim a more direct, more experiential connection, spiritual advisors, their counsel sought by those navigating the complexities of modern life, yet drawing on ancient wisdom, priests and priestesses of revived Kemetic traditions, their chants and rituals echoing rites performed millennia ago on the banks of the Nile. And yes, even those who speak of paranormal encounters, of channeled messages from intelligences, from entities who call themselves the Hathors. This is where the path becomes treacherous, where the well-trodden ground of academic research gives way to the shifting sands of the unexplained, where the historical record collides with the unsettlingly present, the rigorously analyzed with the intuitively perceived. Our aim tonight is not to uncritically validate every claim, nor to dismiss any perspective out of hand. Rather, it is to map the entire phenomenon of Hathor, to understand the full spectrum of human engagement with this extraordinary and perhaps terrifying divine force. The veil is thin here, listeners, at this crossroads of belief and experience, and what lies beyond is a universe of contradictions, a maelstrom of divine energy embodied in the eternal enigmatic gaze of Hathor. We stand now at a threshold, a gateway in time. Behind us lies the comfortable shoreline of simple understanding, of neatly categorized deities and straightforward myths. Ahead, the swirling, often murky, and profoundly deep waters of Hathor's true, multifaceted existence. To cross this threshold is to journey back, far, far back, to the very genesis of Egyptian belief, to a time when the gods themselves were still taking shape in the fertile minds of mortals, emerging from the primordial chaos like the sacred Benben stone from the waters of Nun. Imagine the pre-dawn of civilization, the 4th millennium BC, long before the pyramids pierced the sky with their golden capstones, long before the pharaohs wore their double crowns signifying dominion over 2 lands. Even then, in the nascent art of those early cultures, scattered along the life-giving Nile, we see her shadow, her echo, bovine deities, cow goddesses, their forms etched onto rough pottery carved into simple stone amulets. Is this Hathor in her earliest guise, or a precursor, a collective memory of bovine divinity, an echo of what she would eventually become? The lines are blurred, lost in the mists of prehistory. Then, consider the Narmer palette, a stunning, chilling relic from the very unification of Egypt, dating to around the 31st century BC, a ceremonial slate carved with scenes of conquest and royal power, and there, at its apex, gazing out with serene otherworldly power, is a cow-headed female figure, not once, but twice, flanking the king's name. And again, on the king's own belt, her image is there, a potent symbol of divine protection or authority. Who is this mysterious bovine queen? Scholars debate, their arguments echoing through the halls of academia. Some, like the esteemed Egyptologist Henry George Fisher, suggested this figure might be Bat, another ancient cow goddess, distinguished by her inward curving horns, a subtle but perhaps significant iconographic distinction. Others, like Lana Troy, peering through the lens of later religious texts, specifically the pyramid texts of the Old Kingdom, argue compellingly for an identification with Hathor. Troy points to specific passages, cryptic and ancient, that connect Hathor with the king's apron, a chilling resonance with the goddess depicted on Narmer's royal garments. The ambiguity itself is a clue, a tantalizing hint of the fluidity of these ancient divine identities, of powers shifting and merging in the primordial soup of belief before they crystallized into the distinct personalities of the later pantheon. In these earliest days of dynastic Egypt, it seems another goddess, Neith, the fierce weaver of fate, the warrior mother, the primordial creator, held preeminent sway in the royal courts. But something was stirring in the spiritual landscape of Kemet. A new power was coalescing, gathering strength, preparing to step into the light. Then comes the Old Kingdom, the age of monumental pyramids, their colossal forms a testament to a civilization reaching for eternity, roughly from 2686 to 2181 BC. And Hathor explodes into prominence, no longer a shadowy bovine form glimpsed on early artifacts, but a central pillar of royal theology, a goddess of immense power and undeniable importance. The sun god Ra, his power becoming absolute, his light the source of all life and order, is increasingly central to the ideology of kingship. And Hathor becomes his mythological wife, his divine consort. And by extension, through this sacred union, she becomes the divine mother of the earthly king, the pharaoh. Her womb is the sacred vessel from which kingship itself is born. Her milk, the divine sustenance that nourishes the ruler. Think of the profound implications of this theological development. The founder of the mighty Fourth Dynasty, Sneferu, the builder of the enigmatic Bent Pyramid, and the Red Pyramid at Dashur, may have erected a temple in her honor, recognizing her burgeoning power. His own descendant, the Princess Neferhetepes, a daughter of Jedefra, becomes the first recorded priestess of Hathor, a clear sign of royal patronage. The royal court, the very seat of power and authority in the land, actively promotes her worship, her cult spreading like the life-giving inundation of the Nile. This isn't just religious devotion. This is statecraft of the highest order. This is the weaving of divine legitimacy into the very fabric of the monarchy. Hathor begins to absorb, to subsume, the numerous local goddesses, the myriad cow deities worshipped by the common folk in villages and towns across the length and breadth of Egypt. They become her faces, her manifestations, their local powers now channeled through her overarching divinity. This is a crucial key to her enduring power, her ability to resonate with everyone, from the pharaoh in his golden palace, surrounded by the symbols of his divine authority, to the humble farmer toiling by the Nile, his life dependent on the rhythms of the sacred river. The old kingdom rulers, they didn't waste their precious resources, their carefully controlled manpower. Temples were built only for deified kings, their cults ensuring their eternal life and power, or for gods intimately, inextricably linked to the ideology of kingship. Hathor was one of the chosen few, a goddess deemed worthy of such monumental investment. Her cult spread, actively fostered by the rulers in the provinces, a divine network binding the disparate regions of Egypt to the central authority of the crown. And then, in the pyramid texts, those terrifying whispered spells inscribed on the inner walls of royal tombs, meant to guide the dead king through the perilous journey of the underworld and ensure his rebirth among the imperishable stars. Hathor is elevated to an almost unimaginable status. She is described as personifying the entire Heliopolitan Ennead, the 9 great gods who formed the mythological backbone of creation, the divine family that provided the sacred genealogy for the Horus, king of Egypt, Atum, the self-created one, Shu and Tefnut, air and moisture, Geb and Nut, earth and sky, Osiris and Isis, divine rulers and parents of Horus, Set and Nephthys, forces of chaos and protection, all of them, in some profound mystical sense, contained within, or personified by, Hathor. She becomes the primeval mother, the cosmic womb from which the divine order of Egypt itself is born, the ultimate source of royal legitimacy. We have crossed the threshold, listeners. We are deep within her domain now, a domain built on starlight and stone, on royal power, and the deepest, most ancient fears and hopes of a people striving for eternity. And the air here, in this ancient shadowed Kemet, is thick with a power that is both profoundly nurturing and deeply, deeply unsettling. The journey into the heart of Hathor's mystery has truly begun. We've glimpsed Hathor, the celestial mother, her horns cradling the sun, the divine legitimizer of kings, the very foundation of cosmic order in ancient Kemet, a goddess of divine grace and unwavering benevolence. But the sands of Egypt are treacherous, and the faces of her gods can shift with the terrifying speed of a desert sandstorm. Now, our narrative takes a darker, more violent turn. A chilling complication arises, an undeniable truth about Hathor, a truth that many who are drawn to her gentle, loving aspects would perhaps prefer to ignore, to relegate to the shadows of myth. She is not always benevolent. She is not always the gentle, nurturing cow, giver of the milk of life. Deep within her divine essence, coiled like a venomous serpent ready to strike, lies a capacity for unimaginable fury, a destructive power so immense it can unmake worlds, drown civilizations in blood. This is the terror of the Eye of Ra. The Eye of Ra, a concept absolutely central to Egyptian mythology, is the feminine counterpart to the great sun god, a raw, untamed, and terrifyingly potent divine force. The Eye can be Ra's protector, his vigilant daughter, his beloved consort, but it can also be his vengeance, his instrument of divine retribution. And when that terrible vengeance is unleashed upon a rebellious or ungrateful world, it often, chillingly, wears the face of Hathor. Imagine this scene. Terrifying verses of the Book of the Heavenly Cow, a mythological text whispered by some scholars to have originated in the shadow of Akhenaten's religious revolution, that heretical attempt to erase the old gods and install the Aten as the sole deity. But its roots, its primal fears, they sink deeper into far older, darker soil, into the very bedrock of Egyptian consciousness. Humanity, in its eternal arrogance, its forgetfulness of the divine, has rebelled against the aging sun god, Ra. They plot against him in the shadows, their whispers like the rustling of snakes in the papyrus reeds, their hearts filled with discontent. Ra, his divine patience worn thin, his ancient heart heavy with the betrayal of his own creations, decides upon a terrible, irrevocable retribution. He summons his eye. He summons Hathor. And in that moment, she transforms. The gentle cow, the loving mother, the goddess of music and joy. She vanishes as if she never existed. In her place stands Sekhmet, the powerful one, she who mauls, the lioness goddess, her eyes burning with a cosmic rage, her breath the scorching desert wind that flays the skin from bone, her roar a symphony of impending destruction. She is unleashed upon the world, a wave of divine fury, a storm of razor claws and tearing teeth. She wades through mortals, her golden fur matted with blood and gore, her roar a promise of annihilation. Humanity lays decimated, the fields run red, the Nile itself choked with the bodies of the slain. The air, once filled with the songs of birds and the laughter of children, now echoes only with the screams of the dying and the terrifying roars of the lioness. Hathor, as Sekhmet, is a force of nature unleashed, a divine plague sent to cleanse the world of its impurities. Ra himself, watching from his celestial throne, his heart once filled with anger, now begins to feel a dawning horror. He had sought punishment, a lesson in humility for his errant children, not their utter and total annihilation. If Sekhmet continues her bloody rampage, there will be no one left to worship the gods, no one to maintain the fragile balance of Ma'at, the cosmic order upon which all existence depends. The universe itself trembles on the brink of chaos. The moment the realization of the sheer, terrifying scale of Hathor's power, the abyss of her potential, that the mother can become the destroyer, the source of all life can become the bringer of an all-consuming, indiscriminate death. It's a complication that shatters any simplistic, one-dimensional understanding of this goddess. It forces us to confront the darkness that lies at the heart of her divine nature, a darkness that is perhaps inseparable from her light. The story of Sekhmet's rampage, however, doesn't end there, in a world drowned in blood. Ra, in his desperate wisdom, his mind racing to avert total catastrophe, devises a plan, a trick, born of divine cunning. He commands that vast quantities of beer be brewed, thousands upon thousands of jars, enough to form a veritable lake, and this potent brew is then dyed red, the deep, visceral color of blood, the color of the slaughter that Sekhmet has unleashed. This crimson tide is poured out across the land, directly in the path of the still raging lioness. Sekhmet, her thirst unslaked, her divine fury still burning like a supernova, sees the red flood spreading before her. She mistakes it for the blood of her countless victims, a feast laid out for her insatiable hunger. She drinks, greedily, ferociously. She laps at the blood-red beer until the potent alcohol begins to work its magic. Her divine rage is slowly, inexorably drowned in the intoxicating brew. Her fury subsides into a drunken stupor. She sleeps, her massive leonine form sprawled across the blood-soaked earth. And when she awakens, the bloodlust is gone. The fire in her eyes has cooled. The lioness has been pacified. But the memory of the slaughter, the echo of Sekhmet's terrifying roar, the scent of blood on the wind, these things linger, a chilling, indelible reminder of the darkness that slumbers within the heart of the Golden One, a darkness that can be awakened by divine decree. This myth, this terrifying transformation, and its equally strange resolution, is not just a story told around ancient fires. It was the foundation of actual rituals, of festivals of drunkenness, like the Tech Festival, specifically designed to appease this volatile, dangerous power, to ensure that the lioness remained asleep, that Hathor remained in her benevolent aspect. It's a profound glimpse into the ancient Egyptian psyche, their sophisticated understanding that the forces of creation and destruction are not separate, warring entities. They are two faces of the same divine coin, two aspects of a single unified cosmic power. And Hathor is that coin, spinning through eternity, one moment shining with the golden light of life, love, and joy, the next threatening to plunge everything into a terrifying blood-red darkness. The complication is stark and unavoidable. To truly understand Hathor, we must embrace her terror as much as her beauty. For, in the ancient Egyptian mind, and perhaps in the deeper realities of the cosmos, they are one and the same. This revelation changes everything. Our investigation deepens, and the shadows lengthen. We've navigated the terrifying duality of Hathor, the loving mother who can transform, in the blink of an eye, into the ravenous, world-destroying lioness, Sekhmet. A chilling revelation that complicates any easy understanding of this ancient power. We reach a pivotal moment in our investigation, a midpoint where the veils of time and mystery seem to thin, and we are granted a glimpse into a deeper, more intricate, and perhaps even more awe-inspiring layer of her enigmatic existence, where the complexities we've uncovered begin to reflect a grander, more cosmic design, a divine architecture of staggering proportions. And there is no better place on earth to seek this profound reflection than in the heart of her most magnificent, most enduring sanctuary, the Temple of Hathor at Dendera. Imagine, if you can, a colossal structure rising from the golden desert sands of Upper Egypt, its massive stone walls covered in a dizzying, almost hallucinatory tapestry of gods, goddesses, pharaohs, and intricate hieroglyphs. Dendera, even its name feels ancient, resonant with a power that has soaked into the very stones. For millennia, this was Hathor's primary seat of worship, her sacred home, especially as the old gods of Egypt waned and the new powers of the Ptolemies, Greek rulers on an Egyptian throne, and later the Romans, cast their long shadows over the land of the Nile. The temple we see today, a breathtaking ruin that still inspires awe in all who behold it, was largely constructed during these later periods, from around 54 BC into the Roman era. But its foundations are far older, sinking deep into the sacred soil, with evidence of earlier sanctuaries on this very spot dating back to the Old Kingdom, perhaps even to the very dawn of dynastic rule, to the reign of Pepi I. This isn't just a building, listeners. It's an encyclopedia in stone, a microcosm of the Egyptian universe, every carving, every chamber, every shadowy crypt imbued with layers upon layers of theological and mystical meaning. Step with me, in your mind's eye, into its grand hypostyle hall. 24 massive columns, shaped like the sacred sistrum, soar towards a star-strewn ceiling, a painted firmament of breathtaking beauty. And atop each column, not one, but 4 faces of Hathor gaze out into eternity. Her serene, cow-eared visage, crowned with the sistrum emblem, turned to the 4 cardinal directions. A silent, powerful declaration of her dominion extending to the very edges of the cosmos, her presence pervading all of space. The air here, even in its ruined state, feels thick with the lingering scent of incense, with the ghostly echo of forgotten chants and sacred music. The reliefs on the walls, they don't just depict myths. They are the myths, frozen in eternal stone, a living testament to her power. Here, in the intricate carvings of Dendera, Hathor is the creator goddess, present at the very beginning, before the world took shape. She is the solar deity, her golden light illuminating the entire earth, her rays bringing life and sustenance. She is the embodiment of the distant goddess, her myth of wrathful departure and joyful, pacified return playing out in an endless celestial drama, a cycle of cosmic renewal. And the pharaoh, the living Horus, the earthly representative of divine order, is her divine partner, her son, her consort. His rituals, meticulously depicted on the temple walls, are essential to maintaining cosmic balance and to appeasing her immense, sometimes volatile power. Deep within the temple, hidden from profane eyes, lie the subterranean crypts, labyrinthine passages, cool and silent, where sacred vessels, divine images, and perhaps even more esoteric secrets were stored, guarded by generations of priests. Imagine those priests moving through these shadowed corridors by the flickering light of oil lamps, their hearts filled with reverence, guarding knowledge too potent, too dangerous for the uninitiated world outside. What rituals were performed in these depths? What arcane knowledge was concealed within these hidden chambers, beneath the watchful eyes of the goddess? The temple complex also housed Mamesis, sacred birth houses. Here, the divine conception and birth of Hathor's son, Ihai, the youthful god of music, dance, and ecstatic joy, or Harsontus, another form of the divine child, was celebrated in elaborate annual rituals. Here, the cycle of creation, of divine birth and renewal, was perpetually reenacted, ensuring the continuation of life and cosmic order. And then there's the sanatorium, a place of healing unique to Dendera. Here, the afflicted, the sick in body or spirit, sought cures through sacred waters drawn from the temple's holy lake, and through dream incubation. Imagine them, lying in the cool darkness of the sanatorium, their minds open, hoping for a vision, a touch from the goddess, a whisper of healing in the silent watches of the night, a divine intervention to restore their broken bodies or troubled souls. But perhaps the most famous, and certainly one of the most enigmatic features of Dendera, is the zodiac, a stunning, circular bas-relief celestial map, once adorning the ceiling of a rooftop chapel dedicated to Osiris, its original now housed far away in the Louvre Museum in Paris, a replica left in its place. Taurus the bull, Libra the scales, the familiar constellations of the Western zodiac, intertwined with Egyptian divinities, a fusion of cultures and cosmic understandings. Some scholars believe it's a map of a specific, highly significant moment in time, a celestial alignment of immense astrological or prophetic importance. Others see it as a tribute to Nut, the great sky goddess, Hathor's celestial counterpart, who arched her star-spangled body over the earth. Its true, full meaning, like so much at Dendera, remains debated, a beautiful, intricate puzzle for the ages, its secrets only partially revealed. The very architecture of Dendera, the sophisticated scribal techniques employed in its inscriptions, are a language in themselves, a testament to the profound intellectual and spiritual depth of its creators. Wordplays, visual puns, symmetrical arrangements of hieroglyphs, all meticulously designed, creating layers upon layers of meaning, a symphony of sound and sight, all orchestrated to amplify the temple's core theological themes: Hathor as creator, Hathor as the solar eye, Hathor as the returning distant goddess, Hathor as the divine mother of the king. The scribes of Dendera were not mere stonecutters or artisans. They were cosmic engineers, theologians of the highest order, weaving reality itself with their chisels, their sacred knowledge, and their profound understanding of the power of symbol and word. But Hathor's power, her influence, wasn't confined to these grand state-sponsored temples, however magnificent. It reached into the most intimate moments of human life, from the cradle to the grave. For she was not just one Hathor, singular and remote. She was also, and perhaps more terrifyingly for the individual, The 7 Hathors. Imagine these 7 figures, often depicted as beautiful women carrying tambourines and necklaces, appearing at the birth of a child. Their voices, soft as the desert wind, yet carrying the immutable, unyielding weight of destiny. They would decree the child's fate, the manner of their death, the length of their days, the entire course of their life, woven into the cosmic tapestry before it had even truly begun, their pronouncements inescapable. This is a chilling thought, listeners. The beautiful goddess of joy, the patroness of love and music, also the ultimate arbiter of an unshakable, often harsh, doom. These 7 Hathors were invoked in magical spells, their power sought by ordinary Egyptians, spells for protection, to ward off the encroaching darkness, the malevolent spirits that lurked in the shadows. They appear in popular tales, like the tale of the doomed prince, their prophetic words hanging over the hero like a gathering storm, a constant reminder of his inescapable fate. This multiplicity, the one and the many, is absolutely key to understanding the profound depth and reach of Hathor. She is the cosmic principle, the grand overarching power that sustains the universe. But she is also localized, personalized, her immense influence brought to bear on the critical junctures of individual human existence, bridging the vast gap between grand state theology and the intimate, personal piety of the common folk. From the star-woven ceilings of Dendera, where pharaohs performed sacred rites, to the humble birthing room of the peasant woman by the Nile, her presence was felt, her power undeniable, her gaze, whether benevolent or judgmental, inescapable. And as we stand in the mirror of Dendera's profound mysteries, as we contemplate the pronouncements of the 7 fates, we see Hathor's reflection more complex, more powerful, and more deeply unsettling than ever before. The secrets are deepening, the stakes are rising, the path ahead into the further complexities of her being and her modern resurrections is shrouded in an even thicker veil of mystery and foreboding. We've gazed into the cosmic heart of Dendera, felt the chilling weight of the 7 Hathor's decrees of fate. It might seem, at this juncture, that Hathor's power is absolute, her position in the Egyptian pantheon unshakable, eternal. But the currents of belief are ever-shifting, as unpredictable and relentless as the desert sands under a storm-driven wind. No divine throne is entirely secure, no cult immune to the changing tides of human devotion and theological evolution. And now, as we navigate the later periods of Egyptian history, we encounter another significant complication, a reversal of sorts. It challenges our perception of Hathor's eternal, undiminished reign. A new divine power begins to rise, her wings spreading across the spiritual landscape of Egypt, and, eventually, far beyond its borders. A goddess whose story of profound love, devastating loss, unwavering devotion, and potent magical resurrection will captivate the hearts and minds, not just of Egyptians, but of the entire ancient Mediterranean world. Her name, of course, is Isis, Aset in the ancient tongue, the devoted wife of the murdered god Osiris, the grieving sister, the magical healer who reassembles his broken body, the divine mother of Horus the Younger, whom she conceals in the papyrus thickets of the Delta, protecting him from the murderous rage of his uncle, Set, the mistress of magic, whose words of power can command gods and restore life, the mourner, the queen, the embodiment of wifely and maternal virtue. As the centuries unfurled, particularly in the twilight of pharaonic Egypt during the Ptolemaic period, when Greek kings ruled, and later, under the iron fist of Roman domination, the cult of Isis experienced an almost explosive, unprecedented growth. Her temples, once perhaps modest, spread from the fertile banks of the Nile, to the far-flung corners of the vast Roman Empire, from Britain to the Black Sea. Her mysteries, promising salvation and a personal connection to the divine, drew initiates from every walk of life, from slaves to senators. And as the star of Isis rose, brighter and more compelling, a shadow began to fall, subtly at first, then more profoundly, over the golden, multifaceted radiance of Hathor. This isn't a simple, straightforward tale of one goddess brutally replacing another in a divine coup. The ancient Egyptian mind, as we've repeatedly seen, was remarkably comfortable with complexity, with overlapping divinities, with shared attributes and fluid identities. But there was undeniably a shift, a palpable change in the divine landscape, a reordering of the celestial hierarchy. Isis, with her deeply human, deeply relatable story, began to absorb, to assimilate, many of Hathor's most cherished attributes, her most iconic symbols. Her iconography, once so distinct, began to merge. That iconic headdress, the cow horns cradling the gleaming sun disk, once so uniquely Hathor's, a powerful symbol of her solar and maternal nature, now frequently adorned the brow of Isis in statues and reliefs. In the art of these later periods, it can be almost impossible to distinguish one from the other, a deliberate blurring, perhaps, by priests seeking to unify divine power, or a testament to the overwhelming gravitational pull of Isis's burgeoning universal cult. Syncretic forms, as one might expect, emerged: Isis Hathor, a conscious blending, an explicit theological statement attempting to reconcile these two immense feminine powers, to acknowledge their shared domains and underlying unity. But the momentum, the sheer spiritual energy, was undeniably with Isis. Her narrative, the dramatic, emotionally charged story of her relentless search for the dismembered Osiris, her magical conception and protection of Horus, her ultimate triumph over sorrow and death, resonated deeply with the anxieties and aspirations of a world in flux. It offered a personal connection, a story of suffering, devotion, and ultimate triumph that appealed to the individual soul in a way that Hathor's, more cosmic, more ancient, and sometimes terrifyingly impersonal, perhaps did not for everyone. The Ptolemaic queens, Greek rulers navigating the complex cultural landscape of Egypt, often chose to link themselves with Isis, and naturally with their own Greek goddesses, particularly Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. Hathor, too, as we know, was equated with Aphrodite by the Greeks, a clear nod to their shared domains of love, beauty, pleasure, and feminine allure. But increasingly, as time went on, it was Isis whose image was fused with these foreign deities, Isis who became the primary face of Egyptian feminine divinity to the wider Greco-Roman world. This is the reversal that complicates Hathor's story. Hathor, the great one of many names, the primordial mother cow who birthed the cosmos, the terrifying eye of Ra whose glance could unmake creation, now sees her brilliant light not extinguished entirely, but certainly shared, dimmed in some crucial aspects by the rising, all-encompassing star of Isis. Does this mean Hathor was forgotten, her altars abandoned, her temples left to crumble in the desert wind? No, not entirely, not immediately. Her magnificent temple at Dendera, remember, was still being built, still being lavishly embellished, under the very rule of the Ptolemies and the Roman emperors, a testament to the enduring power of her local cult, her deep roots in that specific sacred landscape. Her vibrant festivals, like the raucous, ecstatic Feast of Drunkenness, and the joyful processional festival of the beautiful reunion with Horus of Edfu, continued to draw thousands of pilgrims, their songs and dances echoing through the temple courts. Her presence in the funerary cult, as the benevolent Lady of the West welcoming the deceased into the afterlife, offering them sustenance and safe passage, remained a potent source of comfort. Small, intimate terracotta figurines, discovered in domestic contexts from Roman times, often depict a goddess with an elaborate headdress, her sexuality openly and unapologetically displayed. These are thought by many to represent Hathor, or perhaps a syncretic Isis-Aphrodite figure. They stand as a testament to her enduring hold on popular piety, on the personal, everyday hopes and fears of ordinary people, likely invoked for fertility, for protection in the home, for success in love. But the grand narrative, the overarching theological currents of the age, were undeniably shifting. Isis was becoming the universal goddess, the Lady of 10,000 names, her compassionate embrace seemingly capable of absorbing the attributes, the power, the very essence of other great goddesses, including, to a significant extent, Hathor. It's a chilling thought, in a way, listeners, that even a power as immense, as ancient, as deeply rooted as Hathor could be subject to the relentless tides of human belief, her prominence ebbing as another's flowed, her light merging into a larger constellation. What does this tell us about the nature of gods, of divinity itself? Are they eternal, immutable, fixed stars in the spiritual firmament? Or are they, too, subject to the cycles of rise and fall, of worship and relative neglect, their forms and functions reshaped by the ever-changing needs, anxieties, and perceptions of their human followers? The shadow of Isis looms large in Hathor's long and complex story. It doesn't erase her, but it certainly complicates her legacy, adding another layer of profound mystery to this already enigmatic queen of the Egyptian pantheon. The ground beneath our feet, as we trace her path, feels less stable now. The certainties of the past, the seemingly fixed hierarchies of the gods, are dissolving before our eyes. And the path ahead into the even stranger, more disorienting modern interpretations of Hathor feels fraught with even greater unknowns, with even deeper, more unsettling questions. The air crackles with a sense of impending revelation, a feeling that the story is far from over. We've traced Hathor's epic journey through the rise and fall of dynasties, through the intricate dance of syncretism with other powerful deities. We've seen her golden light, while never fully extinguished, arguably dim somewhat under the ascendant, all-encompassing star of Isis in the later periods of antiquity. But the story of Hathor, this multifaceted, ever-transforming divine feminine power, does not end with the fall of the Roman Empire or the silencing of the ancient temples by new, dominant faiths. Far from it. We arrive at what is arguably the most disorienting, the most challenging, perhaps even the most frightening part of our investigation. The crisis, the disaster, if you will, for any neat historical categorization. This is the moment where the Hathor of antiquity, the cow goddess, the Eye of Ra, the Lady of Dendera, the mistress of music and love, transforms into something utterly unexpected, something that stretches the very boundaries of belief, that shatters conventional historical frameworks, and plunges us headlong into the chilling, exhilarating fear of the unknown. We are entering the strange and often bewildering realm of modern metaphysics, of paranormal claims, of channeled entities. And here, in this new, technologically advanced, yet spiritually searching age, Hathor is not just a memory preserved in stone and papyrus. She, or perhaps more accurately they, are apparently back. Or so it is claimed. Consider, for a moment, the work of Tom Kenyon, a figure respected in many circles as a gifted sound healer, a dedicated researcher into the mysteries of consciousness, a man with a remarkable vocal range and a profound interest in the esoteric. Kenyon claims, and has claimed for decades, to channel a group consciousness entity, or perhaps multiple entities, a collective intelligence, who call themselves the Hathors. According to the voluminous messages relayed through Kenyon, these are not the goddesses of ancient Egypt, as we have come to understand them through traditional Egyptology. No, this is something far stranger, far more cosmic. These Hathors, as described in the Hathor material and other works, are presented as an ascended intergalactic civilization. They are masters of sound and love, beings from the 10th dimension, some of their followers claim, their origins lying far beyond our terrestrial sphere, perhaps even beyond our galaxy. Interdimensional entities, their consciousness operating on planes of existence we can barely begin to imagine. They say they assisted humanity in ancient Egypt, yes, that much is a nod to the historical name, and they claim to have played similar roles in other lost cultures, their advanced wisdom seeding forgotten golden ages, guiding nascent civilizations. And now they have returned. Returned, they claim, to assist in humanity's current potential evolution, a critical juncture in our species' development, to guide us through what many in these circles call a great shift in planetary consciousness, a period of profound transformation and upheaval. Their teachings, as presented by Kenyon, are a dizzying, often bewildering blend of ancient mystical concepts and modern, almost science-fictional, terminology. Sound, they assert, is their primary modality, their principal tool for interacting with and influencing our reality. Love, a boundless, unconditional love, is their very essence, the core of their being and their message. They speak of DNA activation, of unlocking dormant potentials within our genetic code, of helix transformation, of evolving our very biological and energetic structures. They discuss the brain's neuroplasticity, its incredible capacity to reshape itself, to create new neural pathways, to alter our perception of reality. It is your attention to an event that makes it conscious, they are famously quoted as saying through Kenyon, a profound statement, echoing ancient Hermetic principles of mentalism, the idea that the all is mind, yet delivered with an otherworldly, futuristic, and distinctly technological resonance. Kenyon himself, utilizing his extraordinary, nearly 4-octave vocal range, performs sound healings, creates psychoacoustic programs, purportedly informed by this Hathorian knowledge, tones, chants, and sonic landscapes designed to induce altered states of consciousness, to unlock creativity, to accelerate spiritual insight, to heal emotional wounds. This, listeners, is a far, far cry from the sacred sistrum and the Menat necklace being shaken in the sun-drenched courtyards of Dendera to invoke the goddess of joy. Or is it? Is this a grotesque distortion of an ancient faith, a New Age appropriation of a venerable name? Or is it an evolution, a reinterpretation of ancient energies for a new millennium, an age grappling with quantum physics, the vastness of interstellar space, and the very real possibility of extraterrestrial intelligence? The crisis here is one of meaning, of understanding, of epistemology. How can we reconcile the Hathor of the pyramid texts, the cow goddess suckling the infant pharaoh, with these purported intergalactic emissaries of sound and light? And Tom Kenyon is not alone in these extraordinary claims. Dr. Yafi Yair, a clinical psychologist with a background in holistic wellness and extensive training in channeling, also claims to channel Hathor. For Yair, Hathor is a collective consciousness, an embodiment of the divine feminine. Her channeled messages, as presented in her book Conversations with Hathor, speak of inner transformation, of the importance of self-love, of forging deep connections in a world that often feels fractured and chaotic, of navigating the intense global shifts we are all experiencing. Again, we hear themes of healing, of evolution, of a guiding, nurturing, feminine presence. But the source is presented not as a goddess worshipped with offerings of beer and milk and incense, but as a vast, disembodied consciousness, an intelligence communicating across dimensions, through the willing human vehicle of the channel. This, listeners, is where the air grows very thin indeed, where the familiar landmarks of recorded history dissolve into an unnerving, paranormal mist. We are standing at the very edge of a precipice, staring into a chasm where ancient belief meets modern claims of entity contact, where mythology intersects with ufology and interdimensional theory. What are we to make of this? Are these genuine communications from an ancient, highly evolved intelligence, or a group of intelligences choosing to use a familiar ancient name to connect with humanity? Are they manifestations of the collective unconscious, powerful archetypes re-emerging in new, technologically infused guises to meet the spiritual needs of a new era? Or are they something else entirely, something beyond our current capacity to categorize or comprehend? The fear of the unknown is palpable here, a primal response to the shattering of established paradigms, because if these claims, these modern channeled messages, hold any grain of truth, even a metaphorical or symbolic one, the implications are staggering, world-altering. It suggests that the gods of old are not dead, not mere relics of forgotten faiths, that they, or the powerful conscious forces they represented, are still interacting with humanity, their forms and their messages adapting, evolving to the consciousness of the age. It throws everything we thought we knew about history, about mythology, about the very nature of reality, into profound, unsettling question. Not a physical cataclysm, though some of these channeled messages speak of such possibilities, but a cataclysm of understanding, a shattering of our neat historical boxes, our comfortable academic frameworks. The ancient, multifaceted goddess Hathor, already a being of immense, almost baffling complexity, now shatters into 1,000 more reflections in the strange, often unsettling, and undeniably compelling mirror of modern esoteric thought and paranormal experience. The ground is shaking beneath our intellectual feet. The old maps, the old certainties, are proving utterly useless in this new, uncharted territory, and the voice of Hathor, whether it echoes from the carved stone of an ancient temple or through the subtle vibrations of a channeler's vocal cords from the depths of hyperspace, resounds with a message we are only just beginning, and perhaps deeply fearing, to comprehend. The crisis is upon us. The mystery deepens into an abyss. We have journeyed through the sands of millennia, from the predynastic mists where bovine deities first stirred the human imagination, to the interdimensional whispers of our hyper-modern, spiritually restless present day. We have faced Hathor in her myriad forms, the celestial cow, her starry body arching across the night sky, the royal mother, suckling pharaohs and legitimizing empires, the Lady of Turquoise, patroness of remote and dangerous minds, the mistress of joy, her laughter and music echoing through vibrant festivals. We have trembled before her terrifying aspect as Sekhmet, the lioness eye of Ra, a force of cosmic destruction. We have sought her solace as the compassionate guide of the dead, the Lady of the West. We have witnessed her golden light seemingly wane, her attributes merging with the ascendant star of Isis in the twilight of the ancient world, only to see her re-emerge, transformed and utterly perplexing, in the channeled messages of modern mystics as an intergalactic collective, masters of sound and love. Now, listeners, we stand at the climax of our investigation, the moment of truth, or perhaps, more accurately, the moment we must confront the profound, unsettling impossibility of a single, simple, easily digestible truth when it comes to a being, an entity, a concept as vast and ancient and shape-shifting as Hathor. What have we truly found in this analysis? The first undeniable truth, a truth that echoes from every carving, every hymn, every myth, is Hathor's staggering, almost overwhelming, multifaceted nature. She is not one thing, but everything. Or at least, she contains the potential for everything. The ancient Egyptians, in their profound and often paradoxical wisdom, saw in her the totality of the feminine divine, and perhaps, in a deeper sense, the totality of existence itself. Its creative pulse, its destructive fury, its capacity for boundless love and terrifying indifference. Love, joy, music, dance, sexuality, motherhood, fertility. These are her life-affirming currents, the golden threads she weaves through the tapestry of existence. But equally, she is the patroness of foreign, sometimes dangerous lands, her protection sought by those who venture into the unknown, the wild places beyond the borders of civilization. She is the solemn, silent guardian of the dead, the Lady of the West, her sacred sycamore tree offering cool shade and life-giving sustenance to souls embarking on the terrifying, uncertain journey into the Duat, the underworld. And she is, unforgettably, the Eye of Ra, the embodiment of divine rage, the destructive force that can unmake creation, her leonine roar a promise of annihilation for those who defy the cosmic order. This duality, this inherent capacity to be both the ultimate nurturer and the ultimate destroyer, is not a flaw in her divine design, not a contradiction to be smoothed over or explained away. It is her design. It is a reflection of the ancient Egyptian understanding of the universe, a place of terrifying beauty, of creation born from destruction, of life and death locked in an eternal, cyclical, and ultimately harmonious embrace. Her iconography, those enduring potent symbols, the cow horns cradling the sun disk, the sacred sistrum whose jangling sound could pacify gods and banish evil, the heavy Menet necklace imbued with life-giving power, the reflective mirror of self-knowledge and allure, the life-sustaining sycamore tree, the vibrant colors, turquoise and gold. These are not mere decorations, not arbitrary artistic choices. They are keys, sacred keys to her essence, remarkably consistent across thousands of years of Egyptian history. A visual language speaking eloquently of her solar power, her maternal care, her ability to invoke ecstatic joy and ward off chaos, her profound connection to life, death, and eternal rebirth. Her cult, too, evolved, adapted and endured. From shadowy predynastic bovine reverence, she rose to become the divine mother of pharaohs in the glorious Old Kingdom, her power inextricably intertwined with the very fabric of the state, her priests and priestesses often drawn from the royal family itself. In the Middle Kingdom, she absorbed the ancient goddess Bat, her influence spreading beyond the royal court to the common people, offering them a path to eternity in the coffin texts, a profound democratization of afterlife beliefs once reserved exclusively for kings. The New Kingdom, Egypt's imperial age, saw her at a zenith of popular worship, her temples thronged, her festivals celebrated with joyous abandon, even as other powerful goddesses like Isis and Mut began to share some of her royal roles. And even in the twilight of Egyptian civilization, under the rule of Greek Ptolemies and Roman emperors, her magnificent temple complex at Dendera stood as a defiant, breathtaking testament to her enduring power. Its intricate reliefs and profound astronomical ceilings still being carved, its vibrant festivals, like the Feast of Drunkenness and the Beautiful Reunion, continuing to draw pilgrims to her intoxicating, joyful, and life-affirming presence. Then came the subtle, inexorable shift, the rise of Isis, the Great Mother, whose deeply personal narrative of love, loss, magic, and maternal devotion captured the imagination of a changing world, a world increasingly seeking personal salvation and a direct relationship with the divine. Hathor was not erased, not entirely, but her brilliant light was, in many ways, absorbed into the all-encompassing, universal glow of the new Great Mother, Isis, she of 10,000 names. And then the modern echoes, the interdimensional reverberations, the most challenging, the most unsettling, the most paradigm-shattering part of her long and winding story, Kemetic orthodoxy, a modern religious movement dedicated to reconstructing ancient Egyptian faith, venerates Hathor, often in her powerful syncretic forms like Hathor Sekhmet, her priests and priestesses tending her sacred flame anew in a world vastly different from that of the pharaohs. The Fellowship of Isis, in their eclectic and inclusive embrace of the divine feminine, chant her name alongside Isis, Sekhmet, and Bastet, feeling her serpent power, her solar fire, her boundless maternal joy, weaving her into a tapestry of global goddess reverence. And then, the channeled entities, the Hathors of Tom Kenyon, described as ascended intergalactic beings, masters of sound and love, their messages speaking of DNA shifts, consciousness evolution, and humanity's cosmic destiny. The collective consciousness channeled by Dr. Yafi Yair, offering wisdom, compassion, and guidance for a world in turmoil, an embodiment of the divine feminine reaching out across the veils. How can we reconcile these disparate, seemingly contradictory threads? The academic, grounded in the tangible evidence of stone and papyrus, meticulously piecing together the historical Hathor, her cults, her myths, her iconography, within the specific context of ancient Egyptian civilization, and the metaphysical, the paranormal, rooted in personal experience, in revelation, in claims that stretch and often shatter the very definition of conventional reality. The moment of truth, perhaps, lies not in choosing one over the other, not in validating or debunking. Rather, it lies in acknowledging this. Hathor, by her very nature, by the sheer scale and depth of her being, defies singular definition, escapes easy categorization. She is the Great One of many names, precisely because she is a living archetype, a divine energy so potent, so fundamental, so adaptable, that she can manifest or be perceived to manifest in a myriad of forms across cultures, across millennia, across different states of consciousness and understanding. The ancient Egyptians perceived her through the rich, complex lens of their unique cosmology, their elaborate rituals, their specific societal needs and anxieties. Modern spiritual seekers, grappling with a different set of existential questions, a different understanding of the cosmos, a different cultural landscape, perceive her, or a force they identify and name as Hathor, through their own contemporary lenses, their own spiritual frameworks. The continuity, the thread that runs through all these manifestations, lies in the core energies, the fundamental principles she represents: love, joy, creation, destruction, healing, transformation, the awesome, multifaceted power of the feminine divine. The divergence lies in the interpretation, the language, the cultural and cosmological frameworks used to understand, interact with, and articulate that power. There is no easy answer here, listeners, no neat, tidy conclusion that ties all these shimmering, sometimes terrifying, threads into a simple, comforting bow. Hathor remains a glorious, terrifying, beautiful, and profoundly unsettling enigma. Her eye, whether ancient or interdimensional, remains unblinking. It gazes out from the depths of time, from the heart of the cosmos, challenging our assumptions, shattering our certainties, forcing us to confront the vast, often terrifying, and ultimately liberating mystery of the divine, and its enduring, shape-shifting, and utterly unpredictable presence in the human experience. The truth of Hathor is not a destination we can arrive at. It is the journey itself, a thrilling, perilous, and ultimately transformative descent into the labyrinth of history, myth, and the boundless, unsettling frontiers of consciousness itself. And that journey, for those brave enough to undertake it, is far from over. Our journey through the many veils of Hathor, from the dawn of Egyptian civilization to the strange new frontiers of modern consciousness, comes to a close for tonight. But her story, her influence, the unsettling questions she raises, they don't end here, with the fading of my voice or the dimming of your lights. Her presence, in whatever form one chooses to perceive it, echoes. It resonates in the deepest, most ancient chambers of our collective human memory, in the persistent, often unacknowledged yearning for connection with something vast, powerful, and utterly beyond our everyday comprehension. From the sacred sun-drenched precincts of Dendera, where priests and priestesses once shook the sistrum to invoke her joyful, terrifying, life-affirming presence, their chants rising with the incense smoke to the star-painted ceilings, to the quiet meditation rooms and sound-healing studios of modern practitioners, their voices, or the tones of crystal bowls, seeking to channel healing frequencies attributed to her purported interdimensional counterparts, aiming to awaken dormant DNA and expand consciousness, Hathor, in all her myriad, often contradictory guises, remains a potent force, a living symbol, a symbol of the untamed feminine, the cosmic mother whose milk nourishes galaxies, the fierce protectress whose roar can shatter mountains, the ecstatic lover, the joyful dancer, the inspired musician, and the solemn, compassionate guide through the deepest shadows of death, offering solace and the promise of rebirth. Perhaps the most unsettling, and indeed the most compelling aspect of her enduring legacy is this very adaptability, this chameleon-like capacity to be all things to all people, across all times, across all cultural and intellectual divides. Does this point to a universal, archetypal truth she embodies? A fundamental energy of the cosmos that human beings have always sensed and sought to name? Or does it merely reflect our own innate human need to project our hopes, our fears, our evolving understanding of the divine onto the ancient, enigmatic, and often silent canvases of the gods of old? The academic, the historian, the Egyptologist will continue to sift through the sands, to meticulously decipher the hieroglyphs, to reconstruct her ancient cults with painstaking care, seeking to understand her within her original context. The spiritual seeker, the mystic, will continue to listen for her voice in the silence of meditation, to seek her energy in ritual and ecstatic experience, to interpret her messages for a world hungry for meaning, for healing, for transformation. A powerful reminder that the ancient world is not truly dead, not safely confined to the pages of history books or the glass cases of museums, that its powers, its entities, its gods, whatever their ultimate nature, may still be with us. Their forms shifted, their voices altered to match the frequency of our times, but their essence, their core essence, perhaps, unchanged, undiminished. What if the Hathors of Tom Kenyon, those purported interdimensional beings of sound and love, are connected, in some way we can't yet fully grasp, to the bovine goddess who suckled pharaohs and danced to make Ra laugh? What if the collective consciousness described by Yafi Yair is simply another name, a modern term, for the great one of many names who held sway over Egypt for millennia? These are not questions with easy answers, listeners. They are not meant to be. They are invitations, invitations to look deeper into the shadows, to question our own certainties, our own comfortable paradigms, to acknowledge the vast, often bewildering, and ultimately the unknown that surrounds our small, brightly lit island of understanding. Hathor's dance is an eternal one, a dance of creation and destruction, of joy and sorrow, of life and death, of light and profound darkness. And her music, faint but undeniable, still plays on the edges of our hearing, Her gaze, from across the unimaginable gulf of millennia, still meets ours, challenging, inviting, perhaps even warning. And remember, the veil is always thinner than you think. As we step back from the crossroads, remember, the veil between the known and unknown is thinner than we think. But the story doesn't end here. This is just the beginning. Because what we explore here is not just about the phenomena, but the journey that we are all on, searching for meaning and our purpose in life, seeking the knowledge and the wisdom to solve the deeper mysteries in our universe and to find and fulfill our destiny. Unexplained sightings, spirits, and science, they are all connected, and they have been interwoven into the grand tapestry of life. So remember, keep pulling at the threads, because this has been the Crossroads of the Veil.